What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, things accelerated very quickly after more gameplay footage for Last of Us Part 1 leaked out online that had Sony facing a ton of backlash. We're going to go over all that here today. Also, we are going to talk about a kind of a strange warning from Nintendo asking people to stop using one of their products. And we're also going to be talking about Ubisoft, as it looks like they're not only delaying games, but also canceling a bunch of them too. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Live Alive. It is out right now, and I'm very excited to get started on this game. It originally released back on the Super Famicom and never found its way outside of Japan, at least until now with the HD 2D remake of it. And we can take a look here as reviews are live, currently sitting at an 82 on Metacritic. If we take a look at the split, 39 positive and 9 mixed at the time of this recording, but reviews continue to come out as we've gone along throughout the day. And looking at some of the higher end reviews for the better scores, people seem to really enjoy just how different each story is with the different characters and play styles. And it's really certainly some moments you probably won't get anywhere else when it comes to the RPG genre. Some of the negatives seem to really revolve around later parts of the game that can become a bit grindy for no reason. But either way, I really like what I'm seeing here. I like the idea that these HD 2D games can come out and still get a lot of praise and good review scores for the most part all the way around there. So yeah, I'm certainly checking out Live Alive today, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit more on the podcast tomorrow. But also remember, you can just try the game out. There is a demo that is live right now in the eShop, and the save data will transfer over to the full game if you want to pick it up. Also, we do know that Persona 5 Royal is heading to the Switch, the Xbox, and the PC, but it was already on the PlayStation 4, so some people had some questions around the idea of maybe upgrading that version to the PS5. Well, we can take a look here over on Atlus's website, where they say, if I have purchased the PlayStation 4 version of Persona 5 The Royal, can I upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version of Persona 5 The Royal? They say, we are sorry, but there are no products for purchasers of Persona 5 The Royal for PS4. We would appreciate it if you could just purchase Persona 5 The Royal for PlayStation 5 when you play with PlayStation 5. So yeah, they're basically saying, buy it again, which is kind of strange because Persona 5 would have released technically 3 times then on the PlayStation platforms. Remember, Persona 5 The Royal, and then Persona 5 The Royal PS5 edition. Just seems weird that Atlus wouldn't go, you know what, for like $10 more, we'll upgrade you to the latest version on the PS5. What the frame rate's better, resolution and all of this, but still it seems a bit weird, especially if you're someone who's been following the series and have already bought the game maybe even twice already. Oh, and while there has been a lot of talk around TMNT Shredder's Revenge, just how good it is, there's another Ninja Turtles game coming up, this one being the compilation, the Cowabunga collection, and we now have a release date for it. They also have a trailer here you can check out, and we'll also very quickly go through many of the titles that'll be part of this compilation, but it is coming out August 30th, and you can kind of see a list here with like Ninja Turtles Arcade, Turtles in Time from the arcade, Ninja Turtles for the NES, Turtles 2, Turtles 3, Tournament Fighters on the NES, Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo, Tournament Fighters on the Super Nintendo, Hyperstone Heist, Fall of the Foot Clan, Back from the Sewers, Radical Rescue. There's a lot of value here in this game, so I am absolutely picking this one up on August 30th. And the fact that we have 2 potentially good Turtles games, we have to see how this turns out with like the emulation and everything going into it, but I feel like it's at least going to be a pretty good experience compared to the originals then on newer hardware now with like the Switch, the Xbox, the PlayStation and everything. And also, this is technically from Konami, so it's good to see they're at least participating more and more in, you know, releasing video games, but I'll be keeping an eye on Cowabunga collection as we get closer to August 30th. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony and the massive backlash they're currently facing online from PlayStation fans. A lot of this having to do with the clips that have recently leaked for Last of Us Part 1, that coming out in September. And there's been a lot of question marks around what they were going to do, say, with the gameplay for this title, because it was believed, based on just some things that have been written about this game from Sony and Naughty Dog, that we may see mechanics from Last of Us Part 2, specifically like the shooting and all of this, make its way in. But based on the leaks that have gotten out there, which total 5 or 6 minutes overall, and it's been uploaded to Twitter, streamable, and generally broken up into like 30-second to 1-minute clips of this game, it doesn't really look like that. Visually, it looks better, and they've been very, very open about that being Sony and Naughty Dog, but they haven't shown off any gameplay, and the game's out in, what, 5 or 6 weeks? Anyway, I did take a look at some of the clips myself just to see if there was anything that could be spotted, and there were a few notable things. We'll talk a bit about some of the positives, that being Workbench and upgrading. Looks like it's pulled straight out of Last of Us Part 2, which is really cool there. The visuals, clearly upgraded. Compression on places like Twitter, Streamable, it's not going to do this justice at all. Obviously, you're going to want to have this in front of you on your own TV to check it out there. The aiming seems a little bit different. It doesn't seem exactly like what we had in Last of Us Remastered on like the PlayStation 4. And the gameplay and controls look pretty much the same. In fact, there was a controller shot of like the controls where it goes over all the different buttons and what they do, and it was exactly the same just about to the PS4 version, then obviously then to the PS3 version, which is unfortunate because that means there is no dodge in the game, or technically going prone, but dodge seems to be the thing that everyone's pointing at. It's like that was such a big thing for Last of Us Part 2, and the fact that they didn't go to this Part 1 remake and add it in, and sure, they may have to redesign certain things, but remember, this is a $70 remake with Naughty Dog doing it. Let's take a look here at what was described from Naughty Dog themselves on their website as to what they were going to be doing with this remake. They say, we've implemented modernized gameplay, improved controls, and expanded accessibility options in the single-player experience to allow even more individuals to enjoy the game. I will comment, though, on the accessibility. Some of that was shared on Twitter, and it does look like they added quite a bit on that side of things. They say effects, exploration, and combat have all been enhanced, leveraging the PS5's powerful hardware. We also implemented 3D audio, haptics, and adaptive triggers. They also mentioned that it is rebuilt from the ground up with their newer engines. So hearing all of that together, yeah, you can see why people were expecting quite a bit when it comes to the gameplay side of things, not just the visuals. And I also believe that the price tag that they've attached to this, that being $70, plays a factor, because you see something like Uncharted, where it had the Legacy of Thieves collection, that was $50. So you look over at this and you're like, well, that's $20 more. So I assume it has to have a lot of work done when it comes to the gameplay side and the graphics. Not quite. It looks much closer to Last of Us that we had re-released on the PS4 from the PS3 in 2014 than it does to Last of Us Part 2. So I think a combination of all of this, as well as them being pretty quiet when it comes to just showing gameplay, even though the game has gone gold, obviously they want to show off the visuals, and that's the big focus right now. But I mean, you see all of this going on right now online, and the fact that Naughty Dog can't seem to stop their games from leaking online, that's something they're going to have to look into, as they are still developing things like the multiplayer Last of Us faction stuff, and even a new intellectual property. That's something you feel like they'd want to look into after everything that happened with Last of Us Part 2, but there it is again, Last of Us Part 1, this time leaking out online for everyone to see and causing, yes, another controversy. Well, last night we had a bit of a development here as Sony and Naughty Dog released a video and blog post around the features and gameplay for Last of Us Part 1. So if this wasn't in response to those leaks, it is extremely coincidental in terms of the timing. I kind of feel like this video had been put together a little while ago, and they were just coming up with a time to release it on its way to the game's scheduled release date. And they just said, hey, put it out there because it does address a lot of the stuff that was being pulled from those leaks. Anyway, Let's start from the top here. They go over a couple of new modes where there will be permadeath mode if you want to try to run through it there with one life. They also mentioned speed running mode where it looks like you have a little timer at the top, so when you get to the end, you can kind of post your score to the community, as I'm sure this is a game that people would be trying to run through quickly. They did lean in heavily on the visuals, and that being the biggest, most noticeable upgrade, I think we can all say. But they did talk about things like enemy AI being much more improved and also drawing comparisons to Last of Us Part 2 and some of the things they learned there. And they also talked about your buddy AI being able to detect essentially the path of the enemy so that they can position themselves in a more believable way. Now, I will admit the video that we had leaked out didn't really show a very smart buddy AI character, but hey, we'll see, I guess, as this game releases and we get more footage of all of that in action. They also talked about the haptic feedback being tied in heavily to not only weapons, but also different scenes that'll take place in the game. They specifically pointed out something like the giraffe scene, for example, and how they can do some more subtle vibrations in the haptic feedback to go along with the speaker and everything in the controller, just to tie everything together. They also mentioned the overall density of the levels as well as the enemies themselves, and you can kind of see them exploding into pieces in some scenes there. And they mentioned the 3D audio and talked about how it essentially changes kind of the way you'll be approaching different scenarios, as you can more or less locate enemies just kind of by listening. I'll have the video linked down below in the sources. I recommend checking it out, especially if you are considering picking this up or were just more curious about some of the features that Naughty Dog and PlayStation decided to go over here. I don't know if this is going to immediately change people's minds after just seeing the raw and unfiltered gameplay that was put out there, but I did notice it seemed to put people more at ease, I guess, in the sense that this isn't just Naughty Dog just kind of throwing a game out there that didn't have a lot of work put into it. They're at least going over some of the things they did in pretty good detail. So at the end of the day, it's going to come out to the market and how it determines this game's value. And if it sells well out of the gate at $70, that's probably all that PlayStation really needs to know there. Otherwise, I could see this game end up on sale just a few months later. So if you're unsure about this game at $70, I bet if you hold off a bit, you'll probably get it at a better price. But let me know what you think about all of this after seeing the raw, unfiltered gameplay and then seeing this video posted up by Sony and Naughty Dog. Next up, let's talk about a strange warning from Nintendo to stop using a couple of their products. I thought this would be a fun story to throw in at the end of the week on Friday here, but let's take a look. This was posted up over on Nintendo Japan website. Request to discontinue use of Nintendo Wi-Fi USB adapter and Wi-Fi network adapter. I forgot these existed, specifically the Wi-Fi USB connector that I do kind of remember sitting on our store shelves back in the day, and they just never moved. I think this is one of the items that had like the sticker on it for the pricing, just started to kind of discolor a bit because it was just up on the wall for probably years at that point. But the idea here is you would buy, say, the Wi-Fi USB connector back in 2005, and you plug it into your computer, and that has internet connection, and then you have a wireless access point for your DS or eventually your Wii when that came out in 2006. Eventually, they did discontinue that USB connector and replaced it with this network adapter, basically their own Nintendo Wi-Fi router. Now, they did share concerns around still using these, like WEP is used as the encryption method, but there is a possibility the encryption method will be decrypted in a short time by a third party, and then also pointing out vulnerabilities, like it's possible for a third party to rewrite the settings and firmware using buffer overflow and command injection. Essentially, it's prone to malware. And I really didn't know anyone who used these, but after looking into it a bit further, it appears these sold pretty well. So the only thing I can think of for Nintendo to issue these warnings is that they had some sort of support emails come in, I don't know, in the last year or so, where this was being brought up when it comes to maybe helping them figure out how to use this Wi-Fi USB adapter or even their router. Nintendo's like, oh, you shouldn't be using those at all because there are known vulnerabilities that we found and we discontinued those years ago, so they have to issue this warning just in case anyone out there still has one of these plugged in. I don't know, let me know if you still used either of these. I think the USB stick was the most common accessory because I think for a while there, it was one of Nintendo's best-selling accessories after it released in 2005. Next up, let's talk about Ubisoft, some canceled games, as well as a pretty big delay. Now, Ubisoft shared this information with investors over a call while also talking about their first quarter earnings, their financial reports for their fiscal year, and it appears that Avatar will be delayed and it will be coming out sometime, I believe, in their next fiscal year, which means it won't be releasing until after March 2023, but will be coming out sometime, I would say, before that first quarter 2024. I'm kind of thinking holiday 2023 is where they're going to be pushing this to, and I don't really think did anyone think this was coming out this year, like this holiday, if we hadn't seen any more than that initial trailer? Like, you feel like they would want to do a pretty sizable marketing campaign for this to also align it next to the new movie and everything that's coming out. But they did also talk about some canceled projects, and this includes Splinter Cell VR and Ghost Recon Frontline, this being according to Kotaku. And they even mentioned like a smaller scale game that is being delayed next year, with speculation saying that's probably that Assassin's Creed Rift game that we had heard about. That's gonna be comparable to like Assassin's Creed Rogue, right? Something like that. Nothing at the scale of Valhalla, so a bit more of a contained Assassin's Creed experience. It appears that Ubisoft is mostly going to be relying on Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, as well as Skull and Bones, and I can't imagine Skull and Bones is going to make them any real money after the lengthy development that it had gone through, seeing multiple reboots. And to follow this up, Yves Guillemot did say, in the current economic context, carefully and strategically managing our investments is critical now more than ever. We must therefore succeed in strongly limiting our spending to what is essential by questioning some of our habits and reflexes, and by reinventing ourselves together to make gains in terms of cost, agility, and efficiency. It does sound like Ubisoft is going through it a bit, like they're struggling right now, and when I see that happen with companies, I just automatically assume that they're going to become very careful with what they are attempting to do when it comes to development process, and that they would fall back in line with more live service games over properties that they know would be successful, which they do bring up Assassin's Creed. We've heard rumors that there is an Assassin's Creed Infinity platform that would be something where these Assassin's Creed games would go into as kind of a shared overall experience where you have like currency that you buy that would transfer between the different games and so on there. And I mean, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, extremely successful for them, so it's not surprising to hear that they would do something like build out one sole location for all these Assassin's Creed games to go into, making every single one of them essentially a live service experience. But I guess we'll have to wait until that Ubisoft Forward in September to see what they're ready to reveal and maybe put a release date on. Otherwise, though, we have Mario Rabbids coming up, which I think should be pretty successful for them overall, and then Skull and Bones, which I don't think is going to do that well out of the gate, but maybe they'll see it and kind of move on from there. Although, who knows? Sometimes a game comes out, no one expects it to do well, and then it just explodes online with communities on Twitch. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Microsoft, Mojang, Minecraft, and NFTs, which is something that continues to come up in gaming because NFT blockchain is seemingly trying to be really pushed into the gaming space, and we are seeing some companies kind of accept it, like Square Enix. They're doing things like limited time releases for Final Fantasy with like a figure, and then you also get an NFT with it. But then we have companies that just outright reject this, and the latest one being Minecraft. We can see this posted up. This over on the Minecraft website, where they say, while we are in the process of updating our Minecraft usage guidelines to offer more precise guidance on new technologies, we wanted to take the opportunity to share our view that integrations of NFTs with Minecraft are generally not something we will support or allow. And I think this is a big moment here in gaming when it comes to NFTs trying to find their way into the mainstream side of things, mostly because if this was reversed and they decided, hey, we're gonna bring all the NFTs in, all the stuff you have in Minecraft can be part of the blockchain, all this, I think that would really accelerate NFTs. Things would explode. The fact that, I mean, one of the biggest games right now said, no, we don't want anything to do with NFTs, and it's part of Microsoft, which there's been questions about Microsoft, Metaverse, which Metaverse comes NFTs and all this. The fact that we see Mojang say, it's not really for us. I think it is a big moment here when it comes to NFTs actually just being outright rejected by mainstream gaming, which I think for a lot of people, after seeing what these different NFT blockchain games have gone through, especially recently with things crashing down when it comes to value and just some games outright disappearing, it's probably a good thing. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We're asked, are you picking up Last of Us Part 1? Look at that, 77% said no, I'm not interested. 17% said yes, but I'll wait for a sale. And then 6% saying yes, I'm buying it ASAP. Wow. A lot of people are saying they're just gonna kind of wait for the 94% though. I do wonder if some of the leaks have actually flipped some people right now when it comes to them saying, oh, I'm getting it immediately, them going, yeah, I'll just kind of hang out and wait. We'll see if this thing drops to $40, like by Christmas or holiday season a couple months later. And it does kind of put the Last of Us franchise in a strange position, because Last of Us, the first one, is one that did very, very well for them, right? It approached 20 million sold or something. And then we get The Last of Us Part 2, about 10 million sold. So it's kind of declining a bit. I kind of think this is going to do even worse, although who knows what their expectations are. Maybe they're like, hey, if this sells 2 or 3 million copies based on the limited number of PS5s out there in the first couple of months, they'll consider that a win. But I don't know. It's not exactly making Naughty Dog look good, and it's certainly not making Sony and Jim Ryan look good right now. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Andy saying, an HD remastered port of F-Zero GX might be a reasonable way to gauge interest in the series in general going forward. I imagine if nothing else, the Switch effect for remaster would at least be profitable for Nintendo. More people ought to know Captain Falcon as more than just that Falcon Punch guy from Smash Bros. I think that is a good middle ground for Nintendo, rather than them try to go all in and say, oh, we're definitely doing F-Zero, because Nintendo's pretty conservative when it comes to this stuff. They might say, you know what? F-Zero GX, enough people know about that because it sold pretty well in the grand scheme of things for the F-Zero franchise, which I'm not saying they had massive sales, but you move that over, you clean it up a bit, which it still looks good, it run at 60 frames, add online, and yeah, you can see how it does there. And I have to imagine Nintendo is completely aware of the secondhand market with GameCube games, to where, let's face it, F-Zero GX Remastered, they might drop it for $50, and they'll be like, well, okay, a disc-only copy on eBay for this game is $50. Complete, it's like $70 or $80. So we're technically giving you guys a deal here with that, and it's gonna have added functionality for online. I mean, really, Nintendo should just be looking up and down that GameCube library and just start porting stuff all over the place, because if you look at that sticker price versus what's in the secondhand market, it kind of looked like a deal. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Last of Us Part 1. After seeing that leaked gameplay footage, how do you feel about this $70 remake going into September? And then also, what about Nintendo's warning with this Wi-Fi USB stick? Was anyone still using it though? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.